At some point, life starts handing out endings. Your career is finished, the children have grown up, the house feels quieter than it used to. The big adventures seem to belong to somebody else. And little by little, people stop talking about your future. People start talking about the past. Then something strange happens. You step off an airplane in Thailand. Suddenly, nobody seems interested in how old you are. Nobody asks when you are planning to retire. Nobody treats you like your best years are behind you. For the first time in a long time, the future feels bigger than the past. In the bars, some men remember what it feels like to be noticed again. In the countryside, some men discovered they are not rich, but they are valued. Men who felt invisible suddenly feel seen. Men who felt unnecessary suddenly feel needed. Some even become father again at an age when society expects them to become grandfather. And that's the dream. Of course, every dream has its skeptics. We come back to them later. Welcome to Thailand Lifestyle. We are
Nann
and Odin. Today we explore the Thailand Dream. Because if we are honest, Thailand doesn't just offer a different place. It offers a different version of yourself. A version that many men thought had disappeared. The man who still has plans. The man who still feels excitement. The man who still believes that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. You enter a bar. For the first time in years, you feel seen again. You feel like a man. And that's a powerful thing, especially after a certain age. Because aging isn't just about getting older. It is about watching possibilities disappear, one by one. Some dreams become impossible. Some opportunities never come back. Some doors quietly close forever. Most people learn to accept that, but then they come to Thailand and suddenly they see people building houses, starting businesses, having children, beginning entirely new lives at an age when they thought life was supposed to be winding down. And for a moment, they ask themselves, what if I could do that too? Perhaps Thailand isn't unique because life is easier here. Perhaps it's unique because it allows some people to imagine a different future. Many people think this story is about women. I don't think it is. The women are often the visible part, but underneath is something much bigger. Hope. Because if it was only about beauty, the dream would quickly fade away. Beauty always fades. What doesn't fade is having a reason to wake up in the morning, having somebody waiting for you, having plans for next year, having a future that still feels alive. And that may be a thing many men are truly searching for. Not youth, purpose. There is another truth that rarely gets discussed. Most men don't fear growing older. What they fear is becoming irrelevant. It's a difficult word. Irrelevant. But many older men know exactly what that means. To walk into a room and feel invisible. To realize nobody is looking at you anymore. Nobody needs your advice. Nobody needs your strength. Nobody needs your protection. The role that once gave your life meaning slowly disappeared. And then what happens? Something inside begins to shrink. Not the body. His world. His sense of purpose. His sense of who he is. And then Thailand appears. And suddenly somebody needs him again. Somebody values him again. Somebody includes him again. And whether this feeling is temporary or permanent, genuine or complicated, it feels good. Maybe even better than good. It feels like life is returning. And this is where things become uncomfortable. Because every dream eventually faces questions. Is what I'm feeling real? Or am I simply seeing what I want to see? That question follows almost every man who builds a life in Thailand. Sometimes it comes from friends. Sometimes it comes from family. Sometimes it comes from strangers online. But most often it comes from the man himself. Usually late at night when nobody is around. He asks himself, would she still be here if I had less money? Would she still choose me if I were younger? Does she love me or the life I provide? Those questions can be painful, but perhaps they reveal something important. Because these are not really questions about Thailand. These are questions about trust. And trust becomes harder after you have been disappointed. At this point, perhaps we should stop talking about men. Perhaps we should talk about women. Because there is a strange assumption that appears in almost every discussion about relationships in Thailand. The assumption is that the man has a reason, the woman has a motive. The man is searching for love, the woman is searching for money. The man has a feeling, the woman has a plan. And yet, real life is rarely that simple. So I asked Nann, what do Thai women actually see when they look at an older man?
When people talk about love, they often talk about feeling first. Thai people sometimes look at life differently. We think about the future too. We think about responsibility. We think about whether someone is kind, whether they keep their word, whether there can be trust.
When Nann says something like this, many viewers may be surprised because youth and beauty are obvious. But reliability is harder to see. And perhaps that's where age changes the equation. A younger man may have more years ahead of him, but an older man brings something else. Experience, patience, stability. A calmer understanding of life. Qualities that become more valuable as people grow older themselves. Maybe one of the biggest cultural misunderstandings is the belief that romance and practicality are opposites. That if practical considerations exist, then love cannot. But ask any couple who has been together for 30 years. Eventually, every relationship becomes practical. Someone gets sick, someone loses a job, someone has family problems, someone needs support. Love survives not because life becomes easier, but because two people decide to face reality together. Perhaps that's why so many Thai women use words like responsibility, caring, and taking care of each other. Those words may sound less romantic, but they may actually describe a deeper form of love. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Because sooner or later, almost every conversation about relationships in Thailand arrive at the same conclusion. She is only with him because he has money. Sometimes that may even be true. Money changes life. It creates opportunity. It offers security. It opens doors that might otherwise remain shut. There is no point pretending money doesn't matter. It does. But perhaps money isn't the whole story, because if money alone explained everything, Why do some relationships last 20 or 30 years, while others fall apart within months? Why do some women remain when the money disappears, while others leave even when there is plenty? Why do some wealthy men still grow old alone, while other couples build ordinary lives together? Perhaps because money can create opportunity, but it cannot create trust. It cannot create affection. It cannot create respect. And it certainly cannot persuade someone to stay when life becomes difficult. At some point, every relationship reaches a place where money has little to say. Illness, loss, family problems, growing older together. Those moments reveal something money never could. Not what people can afford, but what they are willing to carry together.
If a woman only wanted money, why would she stay when things become hard? Why would they take care of somebody when they are sick? Why would she stay for a year when there are easier options?
It's a simple question, but it's difficult to answer because real relationships are messy. They don't fit neatly into internet comments. Then comes an important twist. The fear is not only on the man's side. Thai women have fears too. People often talk about men being afraid of being used, but nobody talks much about the fears of the women. The fear that he will leave, the fear that he will become bored, the fear that he never intended to stay, the fear that she gave her heart to somebody who was only passing through. Because trust is not a Western problem. It is a human problem. And vulnerability does not belong to one gender. It belongs to anyone who chooses to love. And perhaps that is what makes these relationships so fascinating. Not because they are unusual, not because they involve different countries, but because they force us to confront the same questions every relation faces. Can I trust you? Will you stay? Can we build a future together? And as years pass, another question slowly emerges. A question that has nothing to do with Thailand, nothing to do with age gaps, nothing to do with money. The question every one of us eventually faces. What matters most at the end of a life? Perhaps we have been talking about the wrong thing all along. Not Thailand, not age gap, not money, not even love. Perhaps we have been talking about time. Because there comes a moment in every life when time changes. Not on the calendar, inside your mind. One day you realize that there are probably more memories behind you than in front of you. More yesterdays than tomorrows. And suddenly the questions become different. You stop asking, what do I want to become? You start asking, how do I want to spend the time I have left? Something happens as people grow older. They begin taking inventory, not of possessions, of life. The marriages, the mistakes, the sacrifices, the opportunities they took, the opportunities they missed, the people they loved, the people they lost. And eventually many arrive at the same realization. The things that seemed important were often not the things that mattered most. The promotions, the title, the status, the endless chase for more. At the end, very few people wish they had spent more time in the office. But many wish they had spent more time with the people they loved. I think there is a great regret that frightens people more than failure. The regret of never trying. Failure hurts, but uncertainty lingers. Years later, people can still wonder, what if? What if I had taken the chance? What if I had moved? What if I had trusted again? What if I had allowed myself to be happy? Perhaps that is why so many people are willing to take risks later in life. Not because they become reckless, because they become honest. They understand that safety has a price too. And sometimes that price is regret. When we are young, starting over feels natural. When we are older, starting over feels terrifying. Because older people understand the consequences. They have more to lose. They know things can go wrong. They know hearts can break. They know trust can be betrayed. They know life offers no guarantee. And yet, some begin again anyway. Maybe that is courage. Not believing everything will work out, but moving forward despite knowing it might not. People often look at older men moving to Thailand and see the risk. And they are not wrong. There is risk. There is always risk. But perhaps what they don't see is the risk he left behind. The risk of spending the next 20 years alone. The risk of giving up on connection. The risk of accepting a life that no longer feels alive. The risk of becoming comfortable instead of fulfilled. Because every choice carries a cost. Even the choice to do nothing. Maybe now we can finally understand that it was never about finding a final romance. It was never about finding a younger partner. It was never about escaping old age. It was about something much simpler. It may be the final opportunity to open your heart completely, without games, without illusions, without pretending you have forever. Because when people understand that time is limited, they often love different. More honestly, more patiently, more gratefully. And small things become enough. A shared meal, a familiar voice, a hand to hold, someone besides you at the end of a long day. And perhaps this is the strange gift of growing older. You stop searching for perfection. You start searching for peace. You stop asking whether someone can make all your dreams come true. You start asking whether life feels better when they are here. Whether silence feels comfortable. Whether ordinary days feel meaningful. Whether home feels like a person instead of a place. Maybe that's why so many men come to Thailand. Not because they are chasing youth, not because they are running away from growing older, and not because they believe here life is perfect, but because they are still searching for something every human being longs for: connection, belonging, purpose. A reason to look forward to tomorrow. Perhaps that's the real Thailand dream. Not the promise of an easier life, but the possibility of a meaningful one. And perhaps the greatest tragedy is not being disappointed. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is deciding that your story is over, while there are still pages left to write. Because none of us knows how many pages remain. But as long as there is another page, there is another possibility, another sunrise, another conversation, another friendship, another beginning. Perhaps the Thailand dream was never really about Thailand. Perhaps it was about discovering that no matter where you are, your future can still be bigger than your past. And maybe that is the one dream worth holding on to. As long as there is another page, Your story isn't over.
สวัสดีค่ะ บ๊ายบาย
Bye bye.